can free her whenever it starts, and it's magic. If the music is groovy, that makes you feel happy like an old-time movie. I'll tell you about a magic that'll free your soul, but it's like trying to tell a stranger about a rock and roll. If you believe in magic, don't bother to choose it. It's jump and music, or rhythm and blues. Just go and listen. It'll start with a smile that will...
I should stop getting into comas. In terms of game series, Kirby is not my favorite. However, I do enjoy it, and it is up there, and I love most of the games. I just haven't made a conscious effort to beat them all yet. So, that's where this comes in handy. I met some guy in an alleyway. He hit me up with the newest Kirby game for me to play and eventually beat. Son of a bitch, this is like the third time this month. Nintendo is a company I've seldom mentioned previously here, outside of E3 and a certain typing game, but I've been a Nintendo fan for quite some time. Being an 05 kid... Born on the same day as Madden 06, thank you. The Wii was my first ever game console, and my first games were Wii Sports, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz. I had a rich childhood. Never played Mario Galaxy as a kid. My first Smash Bros. Was one for Wii U, which I forget what the title of that one is. And hell, I got a Wii U on launch day. I was only 7, but that day was when my last shred of dignity was thrown out the window. But through all of that, none of my Nintendo fan status has really changed. Animal Crossing New Horizons put a distaste in my mouth, as that was an empty disappointment that gave me fun for only like 2 months, but I feel as if that made me more of a Nintendo fan. I'm not going to defend the company with their weird decisions, but as they say, separate the art from the artist. As a Nintendo fan though, I have some games that I wish Nintendo would make. As a Nintendo fan, I expect that damn company to succumb to my every demand and bow down to me, as my opinions are superior to anyone else's. For decades now, a 3D Kirby game has been one of the most requested and rumored Nintendo games of all time. In 2000, Nintendo released Kirby 64: The Crystal Shards, the first Kirby game to use 3D models on a 3D console, and it is so funny how this game was played in a 2.5D perspective. Nintendo's following console, the GameCube, didn't even get a mainline Kirby game. All that console got was Kirby Air Ride, and while that was a fully 3D Kirby game, it was more so a spin-off than anything else. There was a mainline game plan for the GameCube, however, seeing what footage exists from that game, it's safe to say that game became star allies at the end of the day. Through generations of consoles such as the Wii, the Wii U, and even handhelds like the Nintendo DS and 3DS family of systems, every Kirby game remained in a two-dimension perspective. But then that fateful day happened, September 23rd, 2021. A new Nintendo Direct came around, and from the 9-minute and 56-second timestamp to 12 minutes and 50 seconds, I was having the time of my damn life. The rest of the Direct was pretty okay. I think the Mario movie cast announcements took the spotlight for how much Chris Pratt as Mario there was. However, the Kirby announcement was insane. It was a 3D Kirby. It finally existed, and I was hyped. Come 6 months later, and almost exactly 22 years after Kirby 64, Kirby and the Forgotten Land was finally let out into the public. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is the second Kirby game for the Nintendo Switch, and is finally the first Kirby game that adds that super cool Z-axis. And the gameplay just works like a damn charm. Instead of feeling like a reworking of the classic 2D Kirby gameplay, it feels like the next evolutionary step in the series. The first thing I notice is how the gameplay is very similar to that of Super Mario 3D Land and World, where the camera is typically at a fixed spot, and the levels are fairly linear. However, unlike those games, the camera is just kind of stuck in one spot. You know how in some games you can move the camera during cutscenes, but it only moves the camera slightly? That's essentially the camera system in Forgotten Land, but I don't mind, since HAL Labs really knew where the camera would work best. No camera angle in this game feels weird, out of place, hindering, none of that. I can see what I need to see clearly, so the lack of camera movement doesn't really get to me because it's done well. On top of that, there's basically no changes to how Kirby's moveset works outside of how enemies with copy abilities are just automatically swallowed, which is helpful, but that also comes with the removal of crouching. There is the crouch guard, but I've barely seen myself using this, and it really isn't a crouch. Again, the levels are fairly linear, just like Mario 3D World and Land. There's a distinct point A and point B, but sprinkled in between are missions that you can complete. A very odd comparison I can make to these are the secrets in Doom. Why do I say this? Comparing Doom to Kirby is like comparing apples to apples with razor blades in them. They are both video games. Well, the only thing you know when starting the level is how many there are, and if you don't look at a walkthrough online, you have no clue what the secrets are until you find them. That's all they are though, really. Nice little bonuses you get for exploring more of the level. Hell, you don't even need to do these missions to progress. The main goal of the game is to free the Waddle Dees from captivity, and you free like 3 of them every time you complete a level. There are these gates in front of boss levels that require a certain amount of Waddle Dees to break them, but these numbers are completely arbitrary, since even if you're trying to complete as little of the game as possible, you'll end up having enough to progress, unlike the stars in Mario 3D World. The game starts off by asking you what difficulty you want to play on, either Wild Mode or Spring Breeze, and obviously I chose Wild Mode. I'm not 5 years old after all. I'm 5.5. Then you have the opening cutscene. I've never understood Kirby opening cutscenes. All I can gather from them are... That was a Kirby opening right there. I love when Kirby did Kirby things. Aw man, this cutscene looks so good. Look at the water! No wonder why Common Sense Media gave this an 8 out of 10. No, really though, this game looks breathtaking. The cutscenes do look a tad bit dated, but the game itself looks far better. After that show of colors and sound, Kirby finally washes up on the Forgotten Land. So that's what the title means. The whole game takes place in this post-apocalyptic setting, which I dig this. However, the Kirby series isn't the Nintendo franchise I was expecting to delve into the post-apocalypse setting. But hey, someday Ken Griffey Jr. will get this treatment. Ken Griffey Jr. fans, just keep on waiting, we'll get our chance. So, you're going around doing normal Kirby shit until you get to this auto shop, and this is where the main gimmick of the game gets introduced. Gimmicks are basically a staple in the Kirby series, and every Kirby game has one. And while you may look at me and say, the gimmick of the game was introduced when you first started walking around in a 3-dimensional space. That hasn't been done in a Kirby game before. Are you a fucking idiot? Nuh-uh. Just watch. Kirby accidentally swallows a fucking car. The truth is revealed that he has no internal organs, and bam. This is Mouthful mode, allowing Kirby to transform into real-life objects such as cars, vending machines, Goatsy, and many more things. Water Balloon Kirby essentially just lets you go Mario Sunshine on everything. Obviously, he doesn't actually transform like he does with copy abilities, though he takes the object's shape and can maneuver it. This is exactly what I predicted when I was 3 years old! This is a neat gimmick. It's intertwined with the gameplay quite neatly, and more than anything is used to find secrets. After driving around with a pretty great song that acts as a second opening cutscene, Kirby stumbles upon the destroyed Waddle Dee town, where the Waddle Dees planned on settling until they all got kidnapped and their work destroyed. This is where you meet the game's sidekick, Elephant, a Dumbo mouse that's set on rebuilding the town, but can't do it alone. It's a very simple setup to a story, but a pretty effective one as well. After introduction, Bandana Waddle Dee comes to introduce the 2-player co-op mode, which I tried, but I was playing as Kirby anyway, so it's not like it changed the gameplay experience for me. Over time, as you collect more Waddle Dees, the town rebuilds, grows, and expands to new levels. On top of that, Kirby owns real estate here, and you can sleep, display up to 3 of your collectible figures, as well as check out your past adventures. Nothing before Triple Deluxe exists, apparently. There is so much fun stuff to do. This little town is chock full of activities, and it is where the best gameplay feature shines. Press up on the D-pad. This is what John F. Kennedy would have wanted from a Kirby game. There's even a fishing minigame here. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, any game with a fishing minigame is game of the year. Bitches ain't shit. Back to the actual levels, while the wild mode difficulty is optimistically named, the game doesn't get that difficult. I only died like 4 times in my entire initial run, and that was just because I got a little cocky during boss battles. However, for those who want a challenge, there's the optional Treasure Road stages, which restrict you to a single copy ability to put your skills to the test. These can get somewhat tricky, however the main challenge is trying to beat the level within the time limit. So, unlike say Star Allies, the challenge is there for whoever wants it. Other than that, the only differences you'll be getting if you choose Spring Breeze over Wild Mode is that Spring Breeze has weaker enemies and a bigger health bar, though the limited health was never an issue for me. Actually, if you can't beat the game on Wild Mode, you're most likely too young to be watching YouTube, so go outside and play with sticks or whatever. The bosses are certainly challenging a fair bit. Again, the only time I died were during boss battles, and only on 2. One of the bosses took up 3/4 of my deaths. All of them are unique to the Kirby series as well, except a few mini-bosses, but these guys have new wild designs. Essentially, they're designs after joining the new evil forces. The designs of these bosses, they are so creative. All of them feel like they belong in their respective worlds. For example, the second boss, Tropic Woods, is a tropical version of Wispy Woods, and he's the boss of the tropical-themed world. Clawreline is all about acrobatics, performing, and is a boss that seems dead set on killing Kirby. Her world is one all about carnivals and circuses. Hell, a couple of the bosses disturbed me, not with the designs of the bosses themselves, but with their character mannerisms and overall aesthetic of the levels the fights take place in. While this isn't the darkest Kirby game by far, it certainly has its moments that make sure every Kirby game is rated everyone 10 and up. The worlds themselves are all great, all have unique themes to them and deviate themselves from just standard grass, desert, and snow themes. But the only worlds that connect well are the first two. There's a point where you complete the snow world and you go straight to the desert or Wild West themed world or whatever. Not a big issue since the snow and desert worlds are separated by a body of water. Definitely isn't something like a new Super Mario Bros. Game where all of the worlds just connect. And let me just drill in how good the gameplay feels here. The game doesn't feel like it's trying to reinvent the wheel, but I mean that in the best possible way. This doesn't feel like the first 3D Kirby, rather, a refinement of 3D Kirby gameplay. It feels like Kirby already had his Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy. This feels like the Kirby series equivalent to Mario Odyssey in terms of how refined the 3D gameplay feels. Nintendo was aware of this. While the back of the box says, "Feast your eyes on a wild world of 3D platforming adventure," you can really put this on the back of anything with 3D graphics. The 3D isn't shoved in your face as the main selling point of the game. It never was. I think Nintendo never pointed this out directly. The selling points are the unique new world, the Mouthful mode, the evolved copy abilities. I smell something burning. I should have pulled this out sooner. Obviously, being a Kirby game, copy abilities make a return. Not every copy ability makes a comeback, but for a good reason. I have no clue how Broom Kirby would work when Ring Kirby exists now. But every copy ability can be evolved. These are evolved copy abilities, versions of copy abilities that change up the game quite a bit. Some abilities can be upgraded twice, some 3 times, and you can choose whichever version of the ability you would like to use. For example, while my hammer ability is fully upgraded, I use the toy hammer ability since I'm not a fan of how slow the wild hammer is. But all of the evolved copy abilities feel so good to use, not to mention the new copy abilities are great too. You have the Ranger copy ability, which yes, is Kirby with a gun. Here's the applause sign, I'll give you 2 seconds to laugh. Okay, that's good enough. The ability itself feels great to use. While as of writing I haven't fully upgraded it yet, this ability surely packs a punch. Then Drill Kirby lets you dig underground, which is particularly great for finding secrets. Forgotten Land I think has the least amount of copy abilities in any Kirby game since Adventure, which is where the copy ability debuted. Though I'm a tad bit grateful for the limited number, with the overwhelming amount of copy abilities that Star Allies had, the cutback is a nice change. So, while Kirby's moveset is limited, I think this number works best with not only the new 3D environment, but also works well in conjunction with the Mouthful mode and the evolved copy abilities. They only kept the copy abilities that felt necessary to have, while adding 2 new ones that are great additions. And the evolved copy abilities provide so much variety. It's like Kirby has so many new copy abilities now. Don't even get me started on the soundtrack. Oh my god, this is a kicker. Some songs rock hard, some have a jazzy punch, some even have an orchestral feel to them. Definitely not something I was expecting out of a Kirby soundtrack at all, but oh my god is this soundtrack fantastic. I have yet to 100% complete this game, but will I? Absolutely! The missions give this game so much replay value, and someday, I'll have every Waddle Dee in the game. So in conclusion, Kirby in the Forgotten Land takes Kirby in a new dimension while keeping everything that makes the series great to begin with. The gameplay, visuals, combat, soundtrack, pretty much everything about this game is refined to a point where this doesn't feel like Kirby's first 3D outing, but everything is fresh and new. Maybe it's just that the last Kirby game we got was Star Allies, so expectations could have been a bit low, but Forgotten Land blew me out of the water and gave me an experience I was not expecting. Kirby in the Forgotten Land may as well be the best Kirby game of all time. I love the new format for Kirby, and I hope the future of the series lies in 3D. The game is fantastic, though that's not to say it's flawless. First of all, I would have liked a higher difficulty mode. Not that wild mode is insultingly easy like Kirby Star Allies, but the fact that I've only died on boss battles says something. Secondly, every secret in the game is either barely hidden or hidden very intricately. You either have to go out of your way to not find the secrets, or you have to check yourself for cataracts and hearing loss. And again, why does the Past Adventures book only go from Star Allies to Triple Deluxe? And that's not all. What the hell is up with the Mouthful mode? Transformation? Kirby turning into a fat, bloated pink blob? Dear God! This is a fetish bait game! And I know one when I see one. Those damn freaks at HAL Laboratory think they can get away with putting fetishes in my Kirby game? Well, I'll show them. I'll show them with a formal complaint. You can't put fetishes in my Kirby game. And I'll call them. I'm gonna call them right now. Hello, HAL Laboratories. Why did you think it was okay to put fetishes in my Kirby game?
Sir, this is an Olive Garden.
Can I get a Whopper?